Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Oh boy, I hope you guys are sitting down and you have your tinfoil hats firmly adhered to your craniums, because you are going to need it to get through today's video. If this epiphany that I've had proves prescient enough, I will be rocketed to international superstardom. Move over, time traveler, Canadian Prepper is here. But in all seriousness, guys, today on the channel, I am going to be talking about the big one. I'm talking about the financial implosion of apocalyptic proportions that may be on the way and what they're planning in order to deal with the fallout. Now get a load of this. What does the war, the World Economic Forum, cyber attack, the FDIC, that entity that insures all the money of the remaining half dozen banks that control our lives, what do all of them, de-dollarization and the rapid abnormal acquisition of precious metals by private firms, nation states, and individuals, where's the intersect there? Where's the relationship there? Well, let me tell you, let's think about it for a little bit, okay? Now again, I ain't no fiduciary, I ain't no financial guy with a PhD or anything like that. All I can say is that you better hear me out if you got money in the bank, or if you plan on having money in the bank in the future, if you're looking for an economic system to monkey branch off of, because the whole thing might be imploding right before our eyes. Now get a load of this theory, okay? What if, you remember when Klaus Schwab and friends, you know Eggman, the guy who's partying with all the escorts in Davos at the World Economic Forum's meeting right now? What if that guy, when he came out with his warning about cyber attack last year, that, you know, the whole power grid could be taken out and we got to prepare for this, and what if this was priming for something? I'm not saying that it's going to be a false flag or anything like that. Never said that. You said that. I didn't say that. I would never say such a thing. Please don't deplatform me, YouTube. What if that prediction by Eggman, and if you're wondering what I'm talking about, go and watch the video, World Economic Forum cyber attack. It's like a 1 minute long ominous video presentation where basically they're saying that a cyber attack could take down the entire power grid, and of course society would descend into total chaos. Now what if they're putting that in our ear, they're putting that out there into the ether, because when the financial system eventually implodes as a result of Russia winning the war, big assumption there, winning the war. Yes, I know, they may not win the war, but if they do win the war and we are just being fed an endless conveyor belt of lies about Ukraine's chances of winning, even Kissinger now is saying, hey, we need to, we better actually arm the Ukrainians to the teeth, because chances are, if we don't, we're going to lose. And he didn't really say this completely, but I think they know if they lose, that's when the real rapid de-dollarization begins. And when you have de-dollarization start, it can unfold rapidly. And even the FDIC, that entity who insures all the money in the banks, is talking about what they would do to mitigate panic in a bank run. Because remember, only like 1%, they only have the capability to insure about less than 1% of all the money in all the banks. So if you think your money is safe in the bank, how could they possibly have a workaround here? Now think about it. Russia starts winning the war. The dollar starts tanking rapidly. The economy is starting to implode. Okay, people are starting to get wary. They're starting to notice that all the big money is moving into precious metals, or they're moving into hard assets. Okay, that's what they're starting to notice. But of course, a lot of the poor people who can no longer get mortgages because they're these exorbitant rates that are unaffordable, they can't do those same things that the wealthy can do. But they see this happening and they say to themselves, how confident am I in this banking system? Well, what if at that point in time, the stage is set then for a cyber attack to prevent people from doing a bank run? And of course, they have the perfect alibi, who would of course be the Russians or the Chinese, right? Because the war is going on. The war is at its peak at that point. And because we are losing the war, because NATO decided to be stingy with its weapons and not go all in on Ukraine yet, we haven't seen nothing yet, in my opinion, with respect to how much we're willing to support this conflict. Because recall, back in the 70s, late 60s, at the Vietnam War's peak, I never realized this. I heard this yesterday that blew my mind. That at the Vietnam War's peak, the U.S. spent the equivalent in today's dollars of $600 billion in 1 year on that war. 1 year. Okay, now we haven't seen nothing when we're talking about 60 to 100 billion. I mean, they're going to unload everything because, as I've said, the whole financial system depends on the U.S. remaining as the sole reserve currency on the planet. The FDIC is planning to mitigate public panic. There's a 3.5-hour presentation, a leaked video. I don't know how a video like this would get leaked. It almost seemed a little bit like they were playing to the camera. Maybe they're trying to get in people's heads. Maybe there was some conscious attempt on their part to put this information out there to prime everybody for what's coming. What may be coming is the fact that you cannot access your bank account to prevent a bank run. What better cover than, well, there's been a cyber attack and the ATMs aren't working and the machines are down. So, just bear with us here while we try to sort this out. But we'll give you a limit. You can take out so much every day, but you just can't take out, all of your money, unfortunately, right? And this is not counting all of the other potential financial crises that are afoot with respect to the housing crises or the derivative bubbles and just the stock market collapse. All of these, the bond market, at record lows and all these things that I know very little about, to be brutally honest. I understand the stock market to some degree. I understand precious metals and some of the basics of macroeconomics, but I don't understand it all, and I'm not going to pretend I do. But if we can put all those pieces together, we can see what they may potentially do. We can see what their fallback plan might be. When Russia starts pushing hard and the world realizes that, and maybe NATO starts to fray at the seams as well. Maybe the NATO alliance at that point in time, there's infighting within NATO between countries or just civil unrest within countries because you're going to have a population emerge who doesn't want to make any more sacrifices for the front, for the borderland war anymore. And when that happens, of course, U.S. hegemony begins to wane in terms of its influence, and the petrodollar begins to wane. We know that this is inevitable. We know now that the decoupling is inevitable. Russia will never trust the West again, because even before it was leaked that Angela Merkel was just trying to buy time to build up Ukraine's military, and that the Minsk agreement was just a farce, a ruse, if you will, to make the Russians think that they wanted peace when they had no intention of having peace at all. So the Russians are never going to trust the Europeans or the United States again. We know that the Russians and the Chinese are moving closer together. We know that the rest of the world, the developing world, the majority of the world, not many people realize this, but they could care less what goes on in Ukraine. And you can't blame people who are, struggling to eat to take an interest in a country that's receiving billions of dollars in aid every year. They're going to go to the countries who can supply them with food and cheap resources. Those countries happen to be Belarus and Russia, and now the part of Ukraine that has been conquered by Russia, which is its most vital, as far as I know anyways, industrial hub of the country, that 20% that has been conquered, and the whatever 10 to 15% they plan on taking further is the financial strong point of the country. So if they are not pushed out of there and they lose the war, and this is why the war is only going to continue, and this is why these few tanks that we're seeing now, you ain't seen nothing yet. That we haven't even turned the war machine on yet. We haven't even mobilized yet. I mean, just wait to see. And I think right now it's a question of, but here's the thing, they have to play it safe, because they knew this day was coming. They knew the day was coming where they would have to confront the East. And they knew that eventually new superpowers would emerge. And I'm not saying Russia's a superpower yet. They're a superpower in a material sense, in the sense that they have very, very little debt. And this is something that we need to consider. All these countries who are, lauding their high GDPs and their service-based economies and all this shit have loads of debt. In fact, it's proportional. The more debt you have, the higher your GDP. Okay? Russia has very little debt, and they have a lot of gold relative to the size of their population and their lack of debt. Whereas the United States, on paper, is worth a lot less than Russia. And Russia just has a wealth of resources. Now, I'm not some Russia fanboy. I'm just telling you the facts. This is what it is. They knew this day had to come, okay? So let's try to put these pieces of the puzzle together. They have to have a fallback plan. They have to have a plan for when people start to get nervous and they start to see the dollar tanking, or they start to see economic signals that indicate the implosion is inbound, that their money is no longer secure, that the dollar no longer is a guarantor of your wealth. Because eventually that's going to happen, right? I mean, the only thing that is certain to carry value is stuff. And the only very dense form of stuff that has value is precious metals. Now, there's a few other things, but they're not really barterable tokens, okay? So, and of course, there's Bitcoin. There is Bitcoin, but right now there's some pump and dump schemes going on right now. There's some whales are buying, and they're trying to trigger a bull trap, it seems, in that market. So you can never really trust that. I'm not saying that there's nothing to that. I'm saying, there could be, but we don't know who owns the Bitcoin. We don't know if it's the wealthy who are just going to bail and, divest into gold or something like that. They could be doing that piecemeal. We can see the price of gold starting to tick up now, as I've long expected. And relative to other currencies, besides the US dollar, gold is doing phenomenal right now. And the reason why I say gold is because it's rare. Silver, obviously, people like to stack silver because there's more of it, I guess, but gold is just a very dense form. And because it's so rare, it'll always be sought after, which is why it is the de facto measure of wealth. It's the staple. It's the thing that is never going to change. So I'm not encouraging you to go buy gold. You're not going to hear me say, hey, go buy gold at this store afterwards. In fact, I'd still say go buy stuff. I mean, stuff is still a great store of value. Stuff that is not going to depreciate. Like food is not depreciating at all. Food is not depreciating for the foreseeable future. Okay, it's going to be a long time before food depreciates in value again, so long as you're getting non-perishable foods. But guys, this could be what they're preparing for. They're gonna do some kind of, or the excuse will be the cyber attack to prevent the bank run. I don't know, maybe it's Maybe it's too overly simplified of a theory. But you have to think, if they knew this time was coming, and they know that if Russia is pushed to the brink, they're going to push the nuclear button. So it's either nuclear war or financial collapse. Don't you think they have a plan? Okay, don't you think they are wargaming worst case scenarios, what they're going to do, just like the FDIC in that meeting, talking about how, if only the public knew how little faith we actually have in the system, they would be terrified, they would be panicking, and they would be pulling their monies out of the banks. And I'm not saying you do that, because this is not financial advice. Just saying it's probably a very good time to diversify. Okay, because I think the pedal is about to be put to the precious metals. You can put that one on a t-shirt. They know that the Russians, if they push them back, if we turn the war machine on and we go full-on war mobilization mode, if a missile strays and hits another NATO country, or if there's another cyber attack and we evoke Article 5 and we can keep this thing conventional, we know that eventually, if we can push the Russians back, and I do believe if NATO, came together like a fist, they probably could. They could win a war with the Russians conventionally, because you're talking about, every country in Europe and the United States, the combined GDP, as bullshit as GDP is, we still have a lot of resources in industry. We'd have enough to do it, just we don't have the collective will to do it because we're scared of nuclear Armageddon. Rightfully so. So this is the issue. If they know that is one of the outcomes, and they know that the outcome of Russia losing, I'm pretty convinced of this, and I could be wrong, but Russia loses the war, and then the whole world changes, because that gives China's balls get a lot bigger to take Taiwan, and that's when everything starts to slowly unravel, and the faith in the U.S. petrodollar complex starts to wane. It's already waning because the U.S. is trying to keep prices down with oil. But the Saudis are like, no, we don't want prices to be low. They're trying to bankrupt Russia. Right now, global warming is on their side. Oh, he said global warming. Oh, he must be Davos shill. I got a really flattering comment the other day that I'm the good cop for the World Economic Forum, like I'm playing the good cop role. That's incredibly flattering that you think I'm on that level. Oh man, that's hilarious. That is totally hilarious. Anyways, what was I talking about now? I can't even remember. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. In case it happens, in case the Russians are steamrolling through Ukraine, and suddenly the lights go off, and I'm not saying that it couldn't have been, maybe it is the Russians, maybe that's the Russians' way of, but I would think that the Russians wouldn't play the cyber attack card until they were on the back foot. So if the Russians are winning in Ukraine, don't expect them to exact a major cyber attack on the West. Expect them to do that when their back is against the wall. That's why they're holding on to those 0 days. They're going to unleash that probably first as a warning shot. Okay? That's when you know that the cyber attack is legit. It could be legit at any time. Again, tinfoil. But something to think about. When the Ukrainians are on the back foot and we hear about a big cyber attack, that's when it's time to start getting suspicious, especially if that cyber attack prevents you from accessing the money in your account, and especially if it happens around the same time as we're in economic free fall, because the world is watching. The world needs a global guarantor of money, of value, and right now the United States is the guardians of the vault. That's all it is. When you're the global reserve currency, it's because you've got the biggest army in the world, and you can defend the waterways, and you can guarantee that this dollar, we guarantee, we got enough weapons, we got 800 bases in all kinds of countries. We can guarantee that this money is always going to have value. That's why everybody wants dollars in a crisis, in spite of the fact that everybody knows it's a big bubble and it's about to burst. It's like the best, it's like the cleanest shirt in a batch of dirty laundry, okay? So anyways, I hope I gave you something to think about. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I hope I'm crazy because, man, you know, where are we going to hide all this silver and gold? What are we going to do? I mean, I guess you could just buy a, you know, year's worth of freeze-dried food, but where are you going to store it all? I'm sure you guys, maybe you could go into real estate, but who knows with real estate, right? I mean, then the government kind of owns it anyways because you got to pay taxes on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Canadian Prepper out.